Look under the hood of a car and you'll find an engine tucked neatly into a spacious metal bay. On a motorcycle, there is no bay. You are essentially straddling the engine block. This creates a brutal set of engineering constraints. The power plant has to be incredibly compact to fit between your knees, light enough for a human to balance upright at a stoplight, and capable of shedding its own intense heat before it burns the rider. Early inventors tried to force steam engines onto bicycle frames, but finding the right center of gravity was a nightmare. By 1885, the Daimler Reitwagen placed a crude internal combustion engine in the center of a wooden frame, establishing a layout we still use today. The most successful, enduring answer to this packaging problem was the simple air-cooled single-cylinder engine, or thumper. With just one piston doing all the work, it's cheap, incredibly compact, and easy to wedge into a lightweight frame. But physics quickly limits the thumper. If you want highway speeds, you need a bigger piston. Make that single piston too large, however, and the reciprocating mass turns the bike into a jackhammer, vibrating so violently it shakes the rider to the bone. Riders wanted to go faster, and they wanted a smooth ride. Scaling up a single cylinder wouldn't work. Engineers had to throw out the simple math and design entirely new architectures. Before deciding where to put the cylinders, you have to choose how they burn fuel. The two-stroke cycle delivers a power stroke on every single revolution of the crankshaft. With barely any moving parts, it's explosive, lightweight, and perfect for dirt bikes, where quick bursts of power matter more than efficiency. The four-stroke cycle, by contrast, takes a more measured approach. By dedicating separate, distinct strokes to intake and exhaust, it burns the fuel-air mixture far more completely. You get better fuel economy and cleaner exhaust, the necessary standard for modern street motorcycles. Then comes the orientation problem. Do you mount the engine transversely, with the crankshaft running perpendicular to the frame? That aligns perfectly for a chain drive to the rear wheel. Or do you mount it longitudinally, running parallel to the frame, which naturally pairs with a low-maintenance shaft drive? To save even more precious millimeter space, engineers developed unit construction. Instead of bolting in a separate engine and gearbox together, they cast them into a single shared casing, drastically shrinking the drivetrain's footprint. With the basic dimensions locked in, the quest for speed resumed. But generating more horsepower meant generating more violent forces, and engineers had to figure out how to stop the engine from tearing itself apart. The logical first step was splitting the work. Instead of one massive piston, the parallel twin engine uses two smaller ones side by side. It increased the power limit, but mounted transversely, it still produced a steady, high-frequency vibration. BMW took a different approach with the flat twin, or boxer engine. By opposing the cylinders horizontally, the pistons punch outward at the same time, perfectly canceling out each other's primary vibrations. The trade-off is width. The cylinders protrude straight out into the airstream, vulnerable to damage. Harley-Davidson solved the width problem by adopting the V-twin. Angling the cylinders into a V shape tucks them neatly in line with the frame. It keeps the bike incredibly narrow, but it starves the rear cylinder of cooling wind, creating massive heat management problems. The pursuit of absolute smoothness and horsepower eventually led to the inline four. Stacking four cylinders side by side across the frame creates an incredibly wide engine block, but the overlapping power strokes deliver turbine-like smoothness that dominates the high-speed street bike segment to this day. Some manufacturers pushed the spatial limits even further, experimenting with six-cylinder touring blocks, massive V8 engines, and highly compact Winkel rotary engines, trying to cram race car power between two wheels. Multiplying the cylinders successfully smoothed out the ride and pushed motorcycles to incredible speeds. But all those fast-moving parts packed closely together created a critical mass of heat and friction. The engines were suffocating and melting. Breathing became the primary engineering hurdle. Early engines used simple push rods to open valves, but at high RPMs, that heavy mechanical linkage couldn't keep up. The transition to overhead cams, placing the camshaft directly above the cylinders, allowed precise, high-speed airflow straight into the combustion chamber. Even with overhead cams, standard valve springs can fail to close fast enough at ultra-high speeds, a destructive condition known as valve float. Ducati engineered around this with the desmodromic system, using mechanical levers to both push the valve open and actively pull it shut, entirely eliminating the spring.
Meanwhile, aerodynamics and strict emission standards began enclosing engines in plastic fairings, cutting off natural wind. To keep these dense, multi-cylinder blocks from seizing up, the industry was forced to adopt bulky, heavy radiators to circulate liquid coolant and oil. When natural airflow still wasn't enough, designers turned to forced induction. Ram air intakes scoop high-pressure wind from the front of the bike, while superchargers mechanically compress the air, forcing massive amounts of oxygen into the engine without increasing its physical size. Look closely at any modern high-performance motorcycle. Every sculpted fin, intricate valve system, and hidden radiator is a mandatory calculated response to the extreme thermal physics of generating speed in a confined space. When you look at the motorcycles on the road today, from a rugged single-cylinder dirt bike to a massive flat-six touring cruiser, you are looking at a living catalog of compromises. Each configuration is a distinct engineering answer to the exact same physics problem. Today, that engineering landscape is shrinking. Strict global emissions laws are heavily penalizing the two-stroke engine and mandating computer-controlled fuel injection on virtually every new model, forcing a homogenization of design. Alternative power plants are already on the horizon.
The military has experimented with heavy-duty diesel motorcycles for simplified logistics, and battery technology has triggered a massive surge in electric two-wheelers. An electric motor solves the physical constraints of packaging, heat, and vibration entirely. But the 150-year reign of the internal combustion engine stands as a masterclass in problem-solving. It's an era where the brutal constraints of physics forced engineers to invent distinct, mechanical solutions that ultimately gave every motorcycle its unique voice and character.